The Daily Raz Show with Jack Wilson.
All right, here we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. We finally have some snow in the high desert. Winter finally happened this morning. I woke up and looked. I could see the walkway outside of our bedroom window, and then I saw snow. I got up, went out into the through the other rooms and out to the kitchen and looked out on the patio, and we had about 4 inches of snow. So that's the first significant snow we've had this year. We've had little bits of flurries, but nothing that you could really call snowfall. So anyway, we do have snow now, and it's already beginning to melt. It'll probably be in the 40s today, and the snow will be. My wife went into her office this morning, and it will be out melted. I went out and yes, I did shovel my driveway. I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, something like that, I bought a snow shovel. I think I've used it maybe 5 times, maybe. Because, our house faces north and south, and the north side of the house facing the mountains, we live at about 6,000 feet in the mountains, and the north side of the house faces the mountains. So when the sun comes, around in the south, the backside of our house faces the south. And so it gets warm on the backside of the house, and of course any snow or anything back there melts quickly, but the north it doesn't. So the driveways are in the front in the north, and so I try to get out if it snows and I'm home. I try to get my snow shovel out and just push it down the driveway before any cars are run across it, and then of course it leaves those bumps, those snow bumps in the driveways. So anyway, I did get out and I push it out. Now we're going to have a perfectly clean driveway, for when everything else melts. Because the snow plows that they do around here is not really timely. And by the way, we did get enough snow that they had a 2-hour delay. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with New Mexico or Santa Fe or Albuquerque or the mountain area in the high desert, when we get a snowfall, it could be an inch, could be a half inch, whatever. It's hard to say, but they do call a 2-hour delay for folks that are having to travel up to the state capitol, because a lot of people that work in Santa Fe drive from other parts of the state. In other words, maybe from Albuquerque, which is about 60 miles, and they will drive up to Santa Fe on I-25, or from Bernalillo, or from other parts of the outlying areas. So if there's any significant snow, trying to get to Santa Fe or any of the offices can be a challenge for those who have not driven in snow like those of us who have, having lived in the northeastern United States and experienced multiple blizzards. The folks here have not, so they're not used to driving in it. But anyway, getting back to it, they had a 2-hour delay, and that's exactly what it means. If you're working in a government office building or at the university, and your normal work hours are 8 o'clock to whatever, it means they don't expect you until 10. And that happens all through winter. Now, it's more significant in Santa Fe, very common. What this does is it allows the businesses that are in Santa Fe to understand and know that they're going to be starting up slow. And of course, I had a business in Santa Fe some years ago, and it was a retail business. We opened at 6 a.m, and normally we would be packed with customers about 7. Well, whenever in the winter, whenever we had a 2-hour delay, then it was pushed to like 9 or 10 o'clock before we were busy. So we would normally know that the night before if we saw snowfall, or in the mornings. I don't know who makes these decisions, but we would know that. So there you go. That's what a 2-hour delay is. And, looking at the weather forecast that we've had today, this morning, and it is morning here, by the way, it's going to be in the 50s this week. So that's pretty typical. When the sun comes out, snow melts. So that's kind of what the winter. Anyway, we did have winter this morning, and I thought I'd bring everybody up to speed on that. And then we'll start moving on to some other things that I wanted to talk about. So, getting away from the weather, yesterday, there's so much going on on the political side, and so much going on in, with what's going on with Trump and Hegseth, and it's mind-boggling. I don't know how anybody, excuse me, can keep up with it. But one thing that I saw yesterday was, I actually didn't see it. I was driving, and I listened to Sirius in my car, and happened to have CNN on, and they had General Wesley Clark. They were interviewing him, and they were asking him questions. Now, look, politics aside, I was listening to him on the questions that he was being asked, and I thought to myself, I'm listening to someone who is very matter of fact, doesn't sound partisan in any way, and he is a general, and he's a decorated general, and I don't go into all of his background, but look, what I was listening to was a smart guy, a really smart guy who has really got the interest of the country at heart. And without going into all of the things, you can find out what he was talking about, and I'm sure it's all over the news now. But, what I was hearing was someone that had sensibilities and was a professional. And I'm thinking, why don't we have these people in our government services aside from military? Why don't we have smart people like that in our government services? Now, maybe we do, and I don't know about it, but I know that when I look at this Pete Hegseth, I feel like what I'm looking at is a kid in a toy store, in a military toy store that has like Tonka trucks and all of those things, and he's just running around and having a great time. Unfortunately, it's a great time at the expense of a lot of people in our country. But that's what I see. I don't see a professional. I see someone that's on the edge because he's so excited, on the edge of making rash decisions and decisions in my mind that could be wrong and probably are. And I think other people see that too. So I'm thinking to myself, why do we have these unprofessionals in our president's cabinet? I mean, what kind of a decision is that he makes these choices to bring these people in to advise him. I don't know anything, and I feel like I'm smarter than they are, and I'm sure most people do, or a lot of people do. And I see these things happening. Anyway, so I was watching or listening to General Wesley Clark speak, and I thought, gosh, where are these people that they're not in helping in the government service, that they're standing on the sidelines trying to give their opinions and advice? And, of course, nobody's listening to it. But before that, a couple of days ago, I wrote an article because we are now at 10 years. Well, this year, it was 10 years when Donald Trump walked down or took the escalator down, that golden escalator, to announce that he was running for president. And then it's been 10 years since he has come on the scene. So I wrote an article and I went back through the things that Donald Trump has done in 10 years, what he has done, and how he came on the scene. Most people knew of Donald Trump as this person that was a New York businessman and with a professed wealth of billions of dollars that I don't know how many times Forbes magazine debunked that. They cut his announced wealth by half. He was he was so self-aggrandizing that I don't think anybody really knew what his wealth was, really. But he came onto the political scene in 2016. And if you remember back, Donald Trump, this is the guy that politicians, they went to on their hands and knees years prior to get his blessing. And when they got it, I mean, they would love to be seen at lunch with him or any place, because when they were seen with Donald Trump back then, that was a thumbs up approval. And they all coveted it. They all wanted to get that thumbs up approval from Trump when they went into New York. And he was just that kind of a guy. I mean, he was always on Larry King. To me, he was just a braggart, but everyone believed these things of him in business. When the facts were printed so many times, I mean, they had been printed again and again and again about his dealings in business, his failings too, and the number of bankruptcies he'd been through. But, people don't understand when he went through bankruptcies, he took other companies with him. These were people that, could be contractor companies, especially when he was doing work in Atlantic City. He took them. If he went bankrupt and couldn't pay them, where did you think they got the money? They didn't. Lots of businesses went under with him. It was not just Donald Trump. He took a lot of people with him. So, it went on from that. And as I was writing, about him, then when he came in to begin doing debates, and that was the most interesting thing to watch. If we all remember back, they really were not even debates. They were almost like a wrestling match. He would not have any valid arguments for anything. Pretty much the whole time that he was on, I'm talking about in 2016 when he was debating the people that were trying to get the nomination for the Republican nomination in 2016. Basically what he did was up on stage was just insult through insult after insult. And I'm not talking just personal insults. He would insult their families. It was just hate-filled discourse that was going on in the debates. And I don't think really his opponents were at all prepared for it. It was something that they had never seen before. No one had ever done that. So this was like a whole new debate style, and it actually then became a debate technique. He threw, basically threw decorum out the window, and basically said and did what he wanted. And then the moderators, of course, they had no idea what to do with it. They had never seen anything like that. He was probably the rudest person they had ever seen. And the thing was that he didn't have, he really did not have any answers to anything that was asked of him. He would talk in the abstract, the most abstract way. And I think I made a note of it that it was, people watched, even the audience participation. If people remember, the audience was screaming and yelling and clapping. It was very similar to a WrestleMania, and people really came to see those debates because it was almost that they wanted to see bloody noses. They didn't want to see debates. They wanted to see Donald Trump beat the hell out of everybody, and they didn't really care about the questions or answers. They wanted to see his response, and it became a point where when he would do his debate routine, his techniques, they would yell and cheer. They just loved it the way that he was putting it. It was his reality show. The debates in that particular time became the reality show for Donald Trump. So it seemed that Trump was actually speaking to those people who actually watched those wrestling shows, that contingent group of people that liked that environment. And these were people that were, I guess they felt disenfranchised and that no one was speaking for them. But Donald Trump was the angry voice that was going to speak for them. Well, the Republican Party, in my opinion, then got the message on that, and the contestants also got it, but the Republican Party got the message, and Fox News picked up on that real quick. They became the messenger for Donald Trump and the Republican Party. No matter how extreme, no matter how crazy some of his messages were, they delivered the message. And when the mainstream media sources, now mainstream, we're talking about everybody except Fox. Everybody except Fox and those little low wattage stations that we know who they are. Everybody had vetted him and pretty much had determined that he was off the charts, and that he didn't have a chance. They just didn't think he really had a chance. But no one really believed the history of Trump. They kind of let that go, and he waxed over it, and it was no one believed it. They just didn't believe these things. So that group of people we were talking about, pretty much their source of news was one, and it was Fox, because they did not want to believe any of the vetting that was being done on him, which was by everybody else, everybody. And it became to the point where he would not talk to any other news sources. And then he began saying that these other news sources were fake news. They were delivering fake news. This was the beginning of him shining on facts, taking facts and and just polishing them and saying, no, that's fake. That is not real. So those that were promoting Trump, they felt like all of the other media sources, for them, they were piling on, basically piling on him, and they were going to anoint Hillary Clinton. And Fox promoted it that way. Then they began telling exaggerations and lies. Well, look, lies. They began telling exaggerations, embellishing things. And they found that it worked. It worked. Exaggeration and lies were easier to encourage than the truth. And, that's kind of the way they projected him. And goes back to, does anybody remember where the word deal came from? Because I remember when they used to use the term agreements, and countries would reach agreements. Adversaries would come to the table and they would reach an agreement. Donald Trump came on the scene, and all of a sudden, a new word was in the lexicon. It was deal. It was a deal. And, I don't know about anybody else, but I've never liked that. Now everybody uses it. It's a deal. Well, it's not a fucking deal. It's an agreement. I don't know where they came up with that. Well, I tell you where they came up with it. Donald Trump's Art of the Deal, that book. And, this guy never made a real deal in his life. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry I digress, but I thought about that when he came on the scene. When he came on the scene years ago, the term agreements used to be very popular when talking about coming to terms. When two adversaries or two opposing parties would come to terms, they would come to an agreement. That sounded so, I don't know, it just sounded so agreeable. A deal sounds shady. It sounds like somebody's getting their fucking pocket picked. I never did like it. But anyway, moving on from that. So, so going back to 2016, then they went into the debates. And then we saw the real images of Trump in the debates, in particular with the Hillary Clinton. And look, Hillary Clinton, I don't know how the Democratic Party picked her. There's no question she was qualified, way more qualified than Donald Trump was or is. But look, Hillary Clinton she was not a likable person. I mean, even people that I know, Democrats that have voted for this woman, they didn't like her, but they didn't have another choice. As many people that were out there that could have been presented as a candidate in the Democratic Party, they did kind of anoint her. And anyway, so she was just not a likable person by many. Never mind the woman; it has nothing to do with it. She just was not likable. And I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for a lot of people I knew and know. But she tried to be a professional in the debates, I guess, take it to a professional level and be a debater. She is a good debater. And he didn't. I mean, it was just horrible to watch. The guy acted like a thug in these debates, which he is, and it came off that way. But the irony is that his followers, the people that really like him, they thought it was like WrestleMania again when he was in the debates with the Republican contestants for the nomination. This is after he got the nomination, of course. And again, it was like WrestleMania, and all they wanted to see was bloody noses, and they cheered and they applauded, and it was like, what the hell has happened with the political system in our country. And anyway, as it turns out, we all know that what looked like to be a winner for her was a complete surprising upset with Trump, and nobody could really explain it. All of the pundits had all kinds of ideas, but for me, I kind of saw where it was for the folks that voted for him. However, in doing that, they created a whole new Republican Party by doing that. And the Republican Party of Reagan kind of went out the window. And speaking of Reagan and MAGA, he hijacked the MAGA slogan from Ronald Reagan, who used it, Make America Great Again, in his 1980 campaign. Ronald Reagan used that. And it's been used by Carter. It's been used by a number of presidents. Donald Trump did not invent that. He stole it, plain and simple. That's Donald Trump. Find an original idea? No. Take something that others have used. But anyway, he went into his first term and ended up going through 2 impeachments. His first term was a disaster. Had it not been for some professional people that were in there kind of keeping him on the rails, I don't know what would have happened. I don't think anybody knows. But, there were some professional people in there that were kind of keeping him within the lines, in the yellow lines. And then the presidential election came up in 2020. In case anyone is wondering what I'm doing, I'm kind of following the first 10 years that we've been living with Donald Trump and what has happened in that 10 years. And going back, I'd like everyone to take a pause and go back, if you're old enough, before Trump. There was always people always had differences of opinion in politics and what have you. But it was never as volatile as it has been. I had a lot of friends that were Republicans. We kind of talked politics. By the way, I think I've said this, I used to be a Republican. So, we would talk politics, this, that, and the other, and then we would go back to business. But, politics was kind of off limits. It wasn't off limits because we were businessmen and it was part and parcel of business. But we didn't get into arguments. We didn't say, talk about your mother, my mother, or any of that. It was none of that stuff. It was just, disagreements on that. And we let it go. Because we knew at that time, we felt that there were professionals on Capitol Hill, in Congress and Senate. There were professionals there that we elected. At that time, there were professionals that would make decisions based on the voting that was done and what have you. So we didn't really concern too much with that. And if we really had a concern, we would give donations to particular individuals. But, when Trump came in, then that all changed. It all changed. Volatility in politics was the norm. Hate speech was the norm. And then in the 2020 election, when he lost, and before he lost, if everyone remembers and goes back, he had already sown the seeds of doubt in the beginning, before the election, that if he lost, it was going to be rigged. It was a rigged election. How the fuck would he know that? Okay? Let me tell you how he knows it. Because these are right out of playbooks from the 30s and 40s. These are right out of playbooks that that fascist leaders had back in the day, that they could blame a future outcome. And so Donald Trump was already doing that before the election. Well, of course, then when he lost the election, we all know what happened. Then it became mainstream that he was blaming the election on the loss of the election on rigged elections. And look, hey, it went on for years. It went on for years after that. And people believe it. They still believe it. There are some people, and I'm telling you, I know people that believe we did not go to the moon. I know people that believe that. Is that possible today? Well, yes, it is. I can tell you. So there are people that still believe that election was rigged. It wasn't. There was millions and millions and millions of dollars spent proving that. And then to really cap this off was when he was out on the streets, encouraging people to go to the Capitol to stop the actual counting of votes to install Biden at that time. He was out encouraging an insurrection, and it was, I don't care what you say, that was an insurrection. These were people that it caused deaths. And these were people that violently broke into my Capitol building, okay? That's ours. That's our property that we use for representatives to meet. And these people violently broke into it and tried to violently prevent an election. And fortunately, we had Capitol Police there that got these people out of harm's way. And fortunately, calmer heads prevailed, and the vice president at that time did go ahead and certify the election. That would have been Pence. But that did not mean that was not an insurrection. It was. So when he was inciting this violence for the act of an insurrection, he became a seditionist. That is the term for sedition. He was talking about these other six people a couple of weeks ago, saying not to follow illegal laws as seditious. No, actually, he has been that. He just, I guess, seems to forget it. But it went on. That has gone on for years and years, and up into the 2024 election. And at that point, as I say, the Republican Party had changed. These were not the Republicans of Bush or Reagan. This was a whole different group that I won't get into today, but they know who they are, and those up on Capitol Hill know who they are, and so America has just been divided, by that. Now it's, as I was saying when I wrote this article, it's become a love-hate with Donald Trump. There's hardly any middle of the road. They either love him or they hate him. And I don't know that that's ever been in our political system. Maybe it has, but not in my lifetime. So it has been a while. He's influenced the whole election process. It's completely different than it has been in certainly 60, 80 years going back to the early 1900s. Again, he's just influenced the election process. So what Donald Trump did was basically divide the United States up into tribes. I mean, we have the tribes of his followers and the tribes that don't follow him. Again, that's why I say he's influenced the whole election process. And it all began with that ride down the gold escalator. And there have been people talking, I'll bring this up, I almost forgot it, but there have been people talking and we watch him in public, and when there was a public access and you can see cameras on him. There are people that are actually questioning now whether he is actually the head of this movement or is just a figurehead, and is he actually being used by the actual movement hierarchy? Is he really coming up with all of these ideas, or are other people in his movement or in this movement coming up with these ideas, and he is giving his nod and an approval? These are just it seemed to be a wild characterization of what's happening. But hey, look what's happened over the last 10 years, and it would seem like just about anything is possible. And one thing's clear: America has never been this divided as it is right now, and it's going to take a long time for this to unwind and try to get back to some normalcy. And we need that. I don't care what your political affiliation is. The path that we're heading down is not America. And even other world leaders look at this and say, what the hell happened with you guys? So we need to get back to something that would be semi-normal. Not this. I think I told you in one of my last podcasts or something, our particular political scene here in Albuquerque, I would normally vote kind of liberal, but I do believe in law and order. And so this time I voted differently. And I don't know I hope it's not a mistake, but I do know one thing. Status quo will not go. That's it. The way it is right now in the city of Albuquerque, something has to change. Something has to change, and it all goes back to this iconic highway we have. And there was only one other choice on the horizon to move this change or motivate this change, and I went that way because I knew that the status quo was not going to work. So that's kind of the way I feel about what's going on in the government with Trump right now. I'm going to probably start promoting now. I'm definitely a Gavin Newsom fan, and I will probably start promoting him more and more as we get closer into the midterms. Because then you say, why? Well, I'm going to be talking about that because California is like a country. I mean, it's literally like another country because of the economy and everything that goes on there. If you haven't been there, then you don't know. And then people say, well, it's really expensive there. Yeah, it is. But guess what? You got a lot of amenities there. You have a lot of things going on in California, and it's not cheap to live there. And I understand that. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. One of the questions I'm going to ask is everyone, and I mean everyone, if you look at Fox News, they don't vet anyone. Fox News jumped on with Donald Trump, and I haven't seen him discount anything that he does. They're the only news source that has supported Donald Trump. The only one. Nobody else does, except the little 2 or 3 low wattage TV shows that do. I think RA Voice, Newsmax 2, they do, because they're talking to a group of people that believe in Donald Trump. So I don't understand how everybody else can be trying to tell us about him and tell us what's going on, but only one news organization supports him. I find something wrong with that right away. I question that. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be coming up in the news. I'm going to probably start doing these every morning. I'm going to try to get up in the morning and get my coffee and get on and do a show. And maybe it won't be an hour. Maybe it'll be a half hour. Then we're going to be doing, as I said, I did promise, we're going to be doing some emails and some more on travels that we've done. And we'll also be telling you some things about California, why I like it there. But that's probably all I'm going to talk about today. You get a chance, subscribe to this show, and go to the blog that I do on dailyraz.com. I try to write every day or every couple of days on the events that are happening. Remember, Saturday is Ohio State and Indiana. That's going to be a crazy game. The Big Ten Championship, and I'm an Ohio State fan. But I'll tell you what, this Saturday they've got something really cut out for them this Saturday to achieve that. But got to have faith in that. And listen, thanks for joining us, and come back and see us on the next show. Thanks.